They say it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert in your field. Well, over 12 years and 25,000 hours later, I can guarantee you that architecture is a whole different game. Today, I'm going to share with you the most valuable lessons that I've learned as an architect. And I promise to challenge your perspective of what it means to truly be an expert. If we haven't met yet, my name's Tomic. I'm an award-winning architect here in Western Australia, and I'm the founding architect of a 7-figure practice. But more importantly, I'm that guy that you're about to spend a few minutes with to learn a lifetime's worth of valuable lessons. So let's start where everybody starts in architecture. Architecture school will absolutely break you. It's designed to break you. It's designed to push you to your absolute limits to see what you're truly made of. Here in Australia, it is a 3-year degree with a 2-year master's that follows immediately after. That's 5 years of your life through grueling and torture. I can guarantee you that I spent countless nights wide awake. One of my worst nights was 48 hours straight, just trying to finish off an incredible assignment that really meant absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. But architecture school will also make you. It is designed to weed out all of the people who cannot accomplish what the curriculum has set out. It is designed to make sure that anybody entering the architecture profession has toughened skin and learns lessons fast. So even though it may be the toughest years of your life, it will reshape how you understand the world, how you perceive the world, and also how you enter the workforce. In a weird way, it is an incredible architectural boot camp that will actually fast track your life in the right direction. Now, yes, it's brutal, but it is absolutely worth it. But here's the funny thing. You see, you spend 5 years practicing architecture and pretending like you know what you're doing. And you come out with a Masters of Architecture. Fantastic, awesome, whatever. Realistically, you know nothing. As grads, we all come out thinking we're the absolute best at what we do, thinking we know everything and we can conquer the absolute world. I can now take a step back and reflect on my time as a grad and genuinely say I didn't know anything. I didn't know enough. And even with 25,000 hours of experience under my belt right now, I can still say that I don't know enough. Architecture is one of those careers that you will never, ever know everything, nor will you know enough. You will always be able to learn more. But there is an incredibly scary moment in life when, as a grad, you have way too much confidence and your ego is above what we normally consider acceptable in life. So I'm telling you right now, as a grad, do not go out and start your own practice. Do not go out and take on the world and think you can design anything. Unless you have a formal background in architecture, unless you've grown up in the industry, your father, your mother, anybody was an architect and you've grown up studying beside them, then I guarantee you do not know enough to comfortably walk out in life and be an architect properly. It is always my recommendation that anybody starting out as a grad goes out and works for somebody first. Get a few years under your belt. 3, 4, 5, 10, doesn't matter. Get enough experience to the point that you know you didn't know enough. And at that point, you probably will know enough that you can step out on your own. But until then, you will not know enough and you will most likely end up getting yourself sued or in a hell of a lot of trouble. If that is your end goal, to open up and run your own architectural practice, that's incredible, well done. It is a great goal to strive for. But in those years that you're working for somebody, you're gonna need to push yourself to the absolute limits. Nobody is gonna push you except you. You need to be constantly learning, constantly thriving, and constantly looking for the next opportunity. If that means you have to work ridiculous hours, if that means you have to travel significantly further than you ever thought, if that means you have to relocate for the perfect position, that is what you're gonna have to do. Architecture is an incredibly challenging and an incredibly complicated field. It is one of the most competitive as well. I'm sure you've already learned that at university. You start with 500 students, you end with less than 50. The success rate in architecture is incredibly low. So those who do make it are all absolutely at the top of their game already. The best way to push yourself is to continue learning after hours, to spend your time and understand more and more. Think of yourself as a complete blank canvas. You need to be willing to learn even the dumbest things that you think you already know. Chances are, yes, you may know them just that little bit, but realistically, you don't know enough about the skills, enough about those trades. So if you think you know how to build a timber frame wall, or if you think you know how to build a brick wall, you probably don't even know how to draw one, let alone build one. So take a step back, Find out where you can get this information for your specific country, for your specific location, and then move forward with that idea. As you continue to push yourself, you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. You need to make these mistakes super early in your career. The earlier in your career you make these mistakes, the less likely you are to make them later in life. So it is critically important that you continue to make mistakes early on, but at the same time, hopefully, you would have found yourself a mentor that is able to assist you in these mistakes. Ideally, you're able to go to them first, talk about these decisions that you've made before you actually make the mistake. If you make the mistakes internally inside the firm, it is significantly better than if you make the mistakes externally outside the firm. The more mistakes you make, the more uncomfortable you're going to be in your own skin, and that's completely okay. You need to learn how to be uncomfortable, because you are going to have some of the most challenging conversations you've ever had in your life. If you aren't used to a structured debate, an intelligent conversation, and often ones with people who are significantly more successful than you, you're in for a wild ride. Because most of the time, especially in commercial architecture, you're dealing with people who are incredibly successful, people who know what they're talking about, and sometimes know more than you. And that is not a good place to be in. So you are going to be incredibly uncomfortable in these scenarios, but it is something that over time you will overcome, and you will soon become more comfortable in your own skin. During these conversations, things are going to be said that you're going to have absolutely no idea what they mean. If hopefully you're in a practice with other architects and other experienced individuals around you, you can sit in that meeting and just be an observer. With that skill, you're then able to take as many notes on individual items that you have no idea about, which means you're able to go backwards before you can go forwards. Whenever somebody says absolutely anything that you do not understand, you have two options. Obviously, you can ask your mentor, you can ask your peers, and you can ask anybody in the firm who may know. Now, this is a great option if you want to move through this quickly. However, at the same time, if you're asking questions too frequently and too often, then you're going to become a little bit annoying to all those around you. So what you need to do is take your own initiative and learn all of these things after hours. Go backwards, find the basic information, take it to the internet, take it to books, figure out where you can find it. If you don't understand the concept, just keep researching it until you're an expert in that concept. And believe it or not, it's going to continue to happen. You're going to go through 5 years of study and practice and still not know anything that people are saying. There's times in my career, 12 years later, that I still don't know what some people are talking about, and it's okay. I know enough that I can work my way through it and that I can absolutely do the right job once I've mastered and figure out what the hell is going on, but I don't always know absolutely everything. You will be the same. So take notes, understand exactly what's going on, and then go backwards and learn from what you don't know. Now, this is an absolutely brutal truth. It does not matter how good you are as an architect. Age matters. People will not respect you until you reach a certain age. Now, culturally, that changes across the world. It could be 25, it could be 30, it could be 50, but as people's perceptions of you and your experience a first sight basis, they will look at you immediately and go, this person is X years old, and therefore I do not trust their abilities. It is going to take you a lot longer to be able to gain their trust and to be able to prove to them that you have the skills and the experience to do what they're asking you to do. So be ready to allow time to be on your side. Use the early years to learn and then take your advantage when you're of the appropriate age. You'll learn when this is relatively quickly because clients will no longer ask you how young you are, or they'll no longer say, you're incredibly successful at this age, how have you done so well? Any of those things, any of those barriers are so common, so you're gonna get used to them pretty quickly. Just like age matters, words matter. The very particular word that you use could change your entire career. For example, in Australia, you cannot use the title architect unless you are registered. Using the word architect can get you in serious legal trouble, meaning it could completely derail your entire career. Just like using the word project manager instead of contract administrator could end up in hot water. Now, a project manager manages the entire project, manages financials, manages budgets, whereas a contract administrator is a neutral party that is administering a contract. two vastly different roles that are often used interchangeably in society. You have to be comfortable with correcting people when they call you an architect if you're not, and you have to be comfortable with correcting people when they call you a project manager when you're administering a contract. There's just two examples where words truly matter. One fear most grads have coming into professional practice, especially larger professional practice, is getting pigeonholed. And it is a damn serious problem. Those that come out of university and are exceptional at rendering often get pigeonholed as renderers. It takes them an incredible amount of effort to push through that barrier and work their way out of rendering into toilets, into handrails, into staircases. All of these things are so tedious and you need to do them, but you need to move out of them quickly. So you need to innovate your way through these spaces. If that means using AI to push through quick renders, do that. If it means creating templates and library parts to be able to smash through all sorts of documentation tasks, do that. You have to innovate in some way, shape or form. If it's through technology, if it's through something else. Find your own niche and push through the pigeonholes. What the public realm perceives about architects is architects are there to design your house. They're there to design your commercial property. They're there to design. And most of the time, they're on Google, they're figuring out who the best architect is for their job, who will provide the best design. The problem is, every architect can design. It's what we're trained to do. It's what we're experts in. However, what sets us apart is our abilities and our skills beyond design. Instead of thinking, what can you design and how can you sell that service, you have to think, what can I do that others will not? Or what can I do better than others can do themselves? I'll give you an example. I'm more than willing to sit in a car for several hours on end to drive to one of my clients who's 1,000 kilometers away just to have a face-to-face conversation with them. Not because it can't be done over Teams, not because it can't be done over a phone call, but because it creates human interaction and connection. Now, how many other architects would be willing to drive 7 hours for a 15 to half an hour meeting? Not many, but that provides a unique opportunity in the market for people who aren't being catered for and absolutely need to be. So now you've probably put a few years under your belt and you've become relatively experienced in the field. Hopefully after 3 to 5 years, you have become a registered architect. And this is a huge, huge milestone. It's something that you'll celebrate, absolutely. It's something you'll be incredibly proud of. It's something your family will be proud of. But what you'll come to realize is that registration means very, very little if you still do not perform. You need to continue pushing yourself. You need to continue excelling and you need to continue learning backwards, forwards, side to side, and in every direction. Because once again, you are competing in a market that is of the uttermost competitive. Everybody that is registered has most likely registered either before you or just after you. You're in one of the toughest professions that is eat or be eaten. So as an architect, congrats, you've registered, but don't let your foot off the gas just yet. As you continue working as an architect, you're going to build incredible connections. You're going to build teams of consultants and individuals that will make you better. You have to learn to respect your consultants and learn how to work together as a team. At the end of the day, architecture is, yes, architecture, but it is impossible without all of these individual people. Without a structural engineer, half your buildings won't stand up. Without a hydraulic engineer, where's your waste gonna go? Without a civil engineer, your building may flood in the middle of winter. All of these other professions are here to make everybody better, and we have to work collectively. So the sooner you acknowledge that you're not the only piece in the puzzle and that it takes a great team to produce great architecture is the day you'll actually be a proper architect. The best thing about having a great team around you is rules change, and it is near impossible to stay up to date with every single law and regulation change in the construction industry. So we can go ahead and absolutely specialize in that field and then provide insight back into the industry. But we're not actually designing then, we're not doing our own jobs. Instead, we need to rely on our professions and our peers. We need to be able to have open and frank conversations with individuals, and as the laws change, we need to learn from them. So every project may be different and you will learn one new law, one new regulation per project. Add that up over a series of hours, years, decades, or whatever, you will then slowly become an expert in the collective industry itself. And that's what architects really are. We're the jack of all trades. We know a little bit of hydraulic, we know a little bit of structural, we know a little bit of civil. We're not the masters in any of them, but we do know how to design and how to coordinate all of them. So by knowing everything at once puts us in the best position possible. Now, at the start of this video, I mentioned I was the founding architect of a 7-figure architectural practice. And there's only one way that becomes true. It's system work. You need to be able to set up all of your systems absolutely perfectly. If you don't have the right templates on file, if you don't have the right folder structure, if you don't have the right email templates, some of the dumbest things you won't even think of, you'll get bogged down in the administrative work of your role rather than the actual work itself. So think about it. Every time you send a drawing out to a client, it might take you 5 to 10 minutes to draw that email up, draft it, send it away. Instead, you could have that email template completely ready to go in a matter of seconds, attach your drawings, send them off. The same goes for new jobs, construction drawings, documentation, addendas, specifications, all of it. If you have your templates and your systems ready, you're going to be able to grow much faster than you've ever imagined before. But just because you have systems doesn't mean you can forget about checking. Checking is one of the most tedious roles you can do in the architectural field, but it's something that we have to do. We have to check, and we have to check. We cannot let information be released outside of the office without a critical step of checking. Now, generally, the most important time anybody should be checking drawings in the utmost meticulous detail, paying attention to every single line, every single note, every single full stop, is before it goes to construction. Mistakes can happen prior, absolutely. They're not as critical. But the day it goes to construction is the day everything changes. So your documentation needs to be flawless at that point in time. Once your drawings are out, you need to expose yourself to the industry. Not in the weird, creepy way you might be thinking of. You need gradual exposure to construction. So you need to find your way out on site. You need to walk on site. You need to speak to builders. You need to understand what products they're using, how they're using, why they're using it, if they're using what you've told them to, and why not. Sometimes they might have a better product in mind that they're asking you to use, but if you aren't up to date with them, if you don't know what other builders are doing on their sites, you're just gonna awkwardly say no or say yes without actually being educated on the topic. So go ahead and expose yourself to construction sites by simply going out, walking the beaten path, and learning what's going on around you in your own projects. If you haven't figured it out, architecture is a service-based industry. We provide a service to our clients, and there's two types of clients for us, government or private. It's your choice which direction you go in. Government work is completely different to private work, and we all know that private work will always pay more. However, government work is cash flow. The government will always pay their bills. They're never going to default on one of their progress claims. They're always going to be able to fund everything. At least in Australia, that's the way it works, unless you haven't done your job right. Whereas private clients, you might be going to debt collectors, you might be chasing them weekly, you might not get paid for months on end. Builders, for example, might have a 90-day account, so you have to complete the work and then you have to wait 90 days to be paid, which is incredibly challenging from a cash flow perspective. You have staff, you have overheads, you have rent and bills and wages and everything in between. So 90 days is a long time to go without being paid. So if you're looking to be that rich, incredible, successful architect, private work is one option, government work is another. It is how you structure them, it's how you provide the service, and it's how you actually plan your business model. And that business model doesn't always mean bigger is better. You can have more staff and make less profit. At the end of the day, if the goal is profit, you need to be looking at the financials. So more staff means more people to manage. It means less time to design. It means less time for client interaction. You might be able to run a significantly more successful architectural practice with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people compared to that of 10, 15, 20 people. Now, if we talk about those even larger firms that have a couple hundred people, the profitability of those companies as a percentage would be significantly less than the profitability of a smaller, tight-knit, well-oiled machine of 4 to 5 people. Don't let your ego get in the way if you want to be better. You can be better without going bigger. Now, I've realized this video is going for a long time and this desk is incredibly uncomfortable. So I'm going to sit up a little bit further and continue on the journey. You need to understand who your clients are, and you need to understand how to draw for those clients themselves. If your clients genuinely don't care about construction details, sections, elevations, and all they care about is pretty pictures, Provide more pretty pictures, provide less drawings. If your clients don't know how to use technology, then send them paper copies of everything. If your clients aren't okay with DocuSign, make sure you send them physical contracts rather than digital ones. You have to really understand who your core client is and then adopt your business model to them. And of course, just like the private and government sector, there are two types of clients. You have your commercial clients and you have your residential clients. Residential clients are very emotional. This is a huge personal investment for them. It's most likely their home, and that is often one of the biggest financial investments anybody will ever make. So residential clients will always be emotional. It is something that you're going to have to learn how to navigate. When couples are fighting, when husbands and wives are arguing, you need to learn how to navigate the situation in a completely different way to how you have to handle a commercial debate. Residential will always be emotional, whereas commercial is logical. It is financial and it is all calculated. Now, pros and cons here, because with residential, you can do some beautiful, incredible architectural designs. With commercial, sometimes it's going to be pared back so much that it is all about the cents and dollars. If that project isn't feasible, it's going to get scrapped. So oftentimes you're going to have to pull out and pare away some of these architectural details that you may have spent weeks crafting because it just doesn't meet budget. And budget in commercial is everything. As we get to the end of this video, you need to learn how to say no. Saying yes is one thing. You can say yes to as many projects as you like, but the second you are taking on too much or you're unable to deliver on your quality and standards, you need to learn to say no. No is the hardest word to say in any profession, but the sooner you learn to say no, the better outcomes you'll have later down the track. If you aren't confident you're going to be able to deliver a project that's 60 stories high when the best you've done is 10 stories, then learn to say no. If a $50,000 extension comes in and all your firm does is multi-million-dollar homes, you have to say no. Yes, you could take it on. Yes, you could do an exceptional job, but it is not what the core values of the company are. And last but not least, you have to take notes. Notes are super critical. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. It doesn't matter how much you know. If you aren't taking notes, you will forget something.